All right, everybody, I want to apologize ahead of time if you hear my dogs. They are super excited that I came home already, so you may hear them jump up here in a little bit. But today we're going to talk about constant of proportionality. And to start this discussion off, we got to remember that two quantities are proportional if the ratio between the quantities is equal. Okay, so they are proportional if the ratio is equal. And we're going to see that all through these examples down here. Okay, so first we're going to solve number one. So Mario travels 180 miles in 2.5 hours. If Mario travels at the same rate, how far can Mario travel in 5 hours? Okay, so I'm going to set up a proportion, aka a WKU. All right, so my words are going to be miles over hours. And I know that he traveled 180 miles in 2.5 hours. And I want to know how many miles he traveled in 5. See, I can hear my dogs on the hardwood floor. I'm sorry. They're playing hide and seek right now. Okay, so we come over here with our proportion. Okay, and then we need to cross multiply and divide. So we're going to get 2.5x equals, I'm going to multiply over here, 180 times 5, that equals 0, that'll be 40. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. So that'll equal 900. And then we divide by whatever's beside our x, which is 2.5. Okay, so since you divided by 2.5 here, those cross out and cancel out, and that equals x. And then we got to divide 90 by 2.5, or 900, I apologize. Okay, when we divide by a decimal, move it over once, which means this decimal has to move over once. So you get 9,000. Well, 25 goes into 90 3 times. Bring down your 0. Daisy and Scout, y'all need to stop. They're like children, guys. I apologize. Okay, and 25 goes into 156 times, which is correct. Bring down 0. 25 goes into 0 times. So that will equal 360 miles. Okay, so Mario can travel 360 miles in 5 hours. So using the information about Mario's rate, complete the following table below. Okay, so in 2.5 hours, we know that he travels 180. Okay, in 5 hours, he traveled 360. All right, well, now that we have a table, let's really visualize what's going on here. What's 2.5 plus 2.5? 5. Okay, so that's adding 2.5 there. What's 5? The difference between 5 and 7.5? Oh, we added 2.5 there. And again here. And again here. So we're adding 2.5 hours in between each of these numbers. Okay, well, if we're doubling, or if we're adding 2.5 there, what do you think we're adding here? Well, you can't see where I'm pointing. What do you think we're adding? Let me change colors. Here. Well, if I add 180 plus 180, I get 360. So then I'll add 180 here. And then you'll get 540. Oh, they are acting like children. Okay, so we added 180 there, so let's add another 180 here to 540, and you'll get 720. And then add a final 180 here, and you'll get 900. Okay, so you just filled out that box simply by figuring out how many miles he traveled in 5 hours. Okay? So let's go down to number 3. How many miles does Mario travel in just 1 hour? Okay, we did an example about this yesterday. If we know that in 2.5 hours, let's do that reversed. We know that he traveled 180 miles in 2.5 hours. And we want to know how many miles he would travel in just 1 hour. All we have to do is divide the two. So 180 divided by 2.5. Move that decimal over once. We'll move this imaginary over here. So 25 goes into 180 6 times, I believe. Nope, 7 times. So that'd be 35, 14 plus 3 is 75. Yep. And 25 goes into 100. Well, there are 4 quarters and $1, so it'll go in 4 times. So he can travel 74 miles in 1 hour, okay? And your work here, all of this, is your explanation, okay? All right, so that was just going back to proportions. So now let's talk more about the actual constant of proportionality. So the value of the ratio of the two proportional quantities is the constant of proportionality. Okay, so the constant is the value of the ratio. And this is represented by the equation. So you can use the equation K equals Y over X, where Y represents the Y values in a table or graph, and the X represents the X values in a table or graph. Okay, so if we go back up here, when we're talking about a table or a graph, let's use this table, okay? This would be your, oh, that's way too big. This, hours would be your X, and your miles would be your Y. Okay? And they'll typically label that for you. So just like down here, they labeled it for you here and here. Okay? But let's go back up to this box here, and let's label Y, K, and X. So Y represents, I had to go smaller. Represents the y value. So that should be easy to remember. Let's skip over here. X represents the x value. And we said that K equals the constant of proportionality. Okay, and remember, our formula to find that is K equals, what is it again? Y over X. All right, so let's figure out here what y over x is, okay? So they tell you the y and the x. So when you plug that in, plug your y over your x, 12 over 1, which is the same thing as 12, okay? So if we do 24 over 2, well, that can reduce down. Okay, 2 goes into 24 how many times? Whoop, 12 times. Then we go to 36 over 3. Remember, we're putting this number first because it's our y to put over our x. Once again, that reduces down. Okay, 3 goes into 36 12 times. Are y'all picking up on a pattern here? 48 over 4. You guessed it. It goes in 12 times. And 60 over 5. Once again, 5 goes into 60 12 times. Okay, so now let's talk about it. How do you know that the number of feet is proportional to the number of inches? How do we know that that's proportional? Well, because we know that we have the same value for y over x, or the constant of proportionality. It's constant. They're all 12. Okay? Using x, the number of feet, how do you find y, the number of inches? Okay? So here was technically division, right? So let's go. Here was all division. Fraction is division, yes? To figure out what our constant proportionality was, which is here. So how can I find the number of, the number of inches by using the number of feet? Okay, well, what's the difference here? So let's come back over here. How did I go from 1 to 12? What can I do to get 12 from 1? Well, I can either add 11. Okay, so let's say we're adding 11. Well, 11 plus 1 is 12, but is 2 plus 11 24? Not so much. Okay, but the other way I can do it is 1 times 12, I get 12. 2 times 12, I get 24. 3 times 12, I get 36, which is the opposite of the division that we did here. So all we have to do is multiply the number of feet by 12. Okay, so we just use this table to figure out the constant of proportionality, which is, let's do this color. This column right here, y over x.